And hey, we're live.
Hey,
Look at
everybody.
that.
Hi, how's it going? Welcome to the Shit Show. My name is Ron Klett. And sitting across from me is a man who uses basically blood as barbecue sauce. Is the one and only
Derek the Barbaric Trent. And I mean, you're not completely wrong. I mean, medium rare is the way to go. Anyone who says otherwise is wrong.
Right.
I mean,
I agree. I cook my steak or anything. Well, I don't know about hamburger though. I did one time. I did cook hamburger medium rare for my family. It's like, why? Why are you cooking a medium rare? And I said, well, they ask you about it at the restaurant.
Yes.
How would you like your burger cooked? Would you like it rare, or would you like it medium rare, or would you like it well done? And so I went medium rare, and I thought, okay, so. I cooked burgers for my family medium rare one time, and it was like, oh no, you got to get them well done.
No.
I don't know. So do you cook your
yuck.
burgers medium rare?
Anywhere from a medium rare to a medium. Yeah. For
Oh,
for hamburger, I
see?
keep kind of medium rare to medium, but for steak, it's got to be medium rare.
Right.
Yeah, like because I mean, you start getting like I understand if it's like a super cheap steak and stuff like that, and then you just kind of cook it to whatever it comes out to be. You slather it with some like A1 sauce or some shit like that, and then you eat it. Like I don't mind. Like it's meat. I'll eat it. Trust me.
Hence the name Barbaric.
I will devour that thing. I don't care. But yeah, medium rare. You don't really need to add anything.
Right.
It's just it's self like seasoned and everything. Like it's just the juices do.
Of course, that's all you need on a good steak.
Yeah.
All you need is salt and pepper.
Yeah.
Throw it on the grill, turn it over a couple times, kick off the hoofs,
right,
and you're good to go.
Stab it till it stops mooing, and you're good to
go. That's how I like my steak. If you're cutting into it and there's blood oozing out onto the plate,
all the juices
just pour out. Give it to me, and then I'm picking up the plate after it's done and just putting it into my mouth. It becomes a blood fest at my table. Blood everywhere. I'm shaking it all over the place. But why are we talking blood today, Derek?
Because we are talking vampires and blood cults.
Yes. Yep. So vampirism or vampirism? That is the question.
Now, see, I'm a firm believer that it's vampirism because it's not vampire. The word vampire is not there.
Yeah.
Vampire ends with an E. Correct me if I am wrong, but in my spellings everywhere I've ever looked, it is vampire is me.
Right.
Vampire is IR or YR.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it would be vampirism.
Okay. Vampirism. I'm just going to say vampirism through
I was going to say vampire.
just to go against the grain here.
Vampirism.
It just sounds.
It's an ism, like a schism, and it's. It sounds like a word a rapper would use to make it rhyme.
Right. Just kind of force it to rhyme.
Right.
Make it sound good. Yeah. But anyway, so vampirism. Yeah, we'll go with vampirism. I like the way that sounds. It just kind of rolls off your tongue. Right. Yeah. So, but before we actually talk about our topic, like we do with every episode, we have a drink. What is the drink today?
Got a Bloody Mary.
Yes, Bloody Marys. I love Bloody Mary.
I have never had a Bloody Mary.
I know. I can't believe it. When we were talking before we went on air here, that you did not like tomato juice. And since Bloody Mary is the base of it, really is tomato juice.
Vodka and tomato juice.
Like, and a little bit of other spices like Worcestershire sauce and salt and pepper and maybe some... I don't know, maybe cayenne pepper, jalapenos, maybe if you want. I've seen some recipes they put jalapeno in it.
I was gonna say I've seen a ton of different ways to make Bloody Marys, but it's like tomato juice. Nope.
It's just too bad. I don't think there's a tomato juice substitute out there for a Bloody Mary. So I don't know. Let's use spaghettis. Oh, gross. SpaghettiOs without the spaghetti O's.
Oh no, leave the O's.
Leave the O's.
Leave the O's.
Oh yeah, just have some friends over for some drinks some night. Yeah, we're having Bloody Marys tonight.
We have been talking about doing like the random drink thing just as like a fun episode.
Right.
That should be one of our drinks.
Spaghetti-o drink.
Is a
spaghetti-o Bloody Mary.
Yeah.
That sounds so gross. But we would have to try it though.
We would have to try
right.
it. We would have to.
Right. So
and I told you my daughter's down to do it. Like if we give her the ingredients, we'll have
we just have to figure out how how it's all gonna work out.
Yeah.
But just a surprise. Here's your surprise drink.
Technically she's under she can't serve, but she can go, you should mix that, and that. And then your wife will mix it for us. And then, they can write down on a little card on what's in each drink that we don't see until after we drink it.
Yeah. That sounds like a great idea to me. We just have to figure out how to work it in.
Right.
And maybe we could do it. Yeah.
I'm telling you, one of these Fridays or something like that, just come over. We can do a live. We can.
Yep. Yeah. So
because then we don't care about a barking dog upstairs because it'll just be fun.
Right. Yeah, barking dog. Toby.
He can join us down here for that one.
Toby, the show dog.
Right.
Yeah, he's our little mascot that sometimes you may have heard barking in the background on some of our podcasts, very faintly. My wife is upstairs from the studio here, try to keep our dog quiet as we podcast. So
she does a good job.
She does a very good job. Well. I think she has him in a stranglehold every time.
What she didn't tell you, she bought a muzzle for him just to keep him quiet.
Sure. Yeah. No, my wife loves dogs and she loves our dog very much. I don't think that would ever happen. She would let our dog bark as much as he wanted to, just because to make him happy.
Right.
Not to make us happy. She would make him happy first. So I don't know what she does to him up there. I think it's just she just mellows out with him. I think he's probably smoking pot. Probably blowing pot in his face. They're probably sitting down smoking a big blunt right now.
Both are just higher than a kite.
Yeah. So anyway, our Bloody Marys are made with vodka. I seen some Bloody Marys made with tequila, but ours are made with vodka. I don't know. I've seen some recipes online about tequila. No, I don't think so. So, but anyway, there's an interesting history behind a Bloody Mary, and everybody, I was wondering, how did the Bloody Mary get its name? Yeah. There's one theory that there was a bartender named Mary that worked at a bar. I think it was called the Bucket of Blood in Chicago back in the day.
Yeah.
And then that's how the Bloody Mary got its name. But I like this history. The history of the Bloody Mary basically was labeled Bloody Mary after Queen Mary Tudor and her bloody reign against Protestants in England in the 1500s. I kind of like this one a little bit better. Some theories claim that the tomato juice represents the blood shed during this time, and the fiery vodka illustrates Queen Mary Tudor's wicked means of executing her enemies. So I love that one better.
Right?
Yeah, a little bloodshed and everything.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, we're talking vampirism today.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah,
this is gonna be fun.
Yep, it is gonna be fun. So when do we get into it?
Got our blood drink. We gotta try our drink. I can't pick mine up because
gotta try our drink first.
Ron definitely overfilled mine.
Yep, and look, we got the celery stalk in it as well.
Right.
What
do we do with that?
I think you can just kind of let it soak in here, and I don't know why they give the celery. I think does it soak up maybe some of the Bloody Mary?
Dude, I don't know. I've never had these before.
I don't know. So
all right. So this is gonna be an interesting drink for me because I don't dare pick mine up.
You're gonna slurp it.
I'm gonna slurp.
You're gonna slurp it like a vampire. You're gonna slurp it up like you're harvesting blood.
And then you can.
All right. Here, I'm gonna toast you on the table.
Toast it on the
toast
table.
And toast to everybody out there. Hopefully, you guys are having a really good Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon. And here we go. Your first Bloody Mary, Derek. Yeah, you get that spiciness of the tomato juice, a little bit of vodka on the back end.
I can taste the celery.
Well, the tomato juice also has celery seed in it.
Oh, okay.
So maybe hence the celery stalk. Why the celery stalk was always put in a Bloody Mary? Unless it represented something else about Queen Mary.
Right. Well, you know, there's a nursery rhyme about her, right?
Oh, there is.
There is.
Oh.
Mary, Mary, quite contrary. How does your garden grow?
Oh, is that about Queen Mary?
That is.
I didn't know that. Wow, you learn something new on the show every day.
Know, right?
See, everybody, you are basically in the throes of sometimes useless information.
There's a lot of that up there. Yeah, no, it's because it's talking about Mary Tudor. And then her gardens were cemeteries.
Oh.
And then it's Mary, Mary, quick and contrary, how do your gardens grow, with silver bells and cockle shells.
Okay.
Those were forms of torture. They were like thumb screws and testicle clamps.
Really? I don't know. To some, those wouldn't be forms of torture. That would be a great time on a Saturday night.
And then all your pretty maids in a row is referring to guillotines.
The what?
Guillotines.
Oh, I was scratching my celery. I thought you said Gilligan. Oh, Gilligan's Island?
Yes.
What? So guillotines.
Yes.
Interesting.
So,
all right.
The wonderful the things that we teach our children,
Yeah, those dark nursery rhymes that we teach our children that Disney kind of waters down, or like from Brother Grimm books and stuff like that pretty much have a really dark history to them.
Yeah.
Then we teach our children the watered down versions of them, and how we tend to portray them how sweet and innocent, but really the symbology between all,
ring around
behind
the rosy,
all of that,
pocket full of posy, ashes, ashes, we all fall down.
Yeah.
Let the Black Plague.
Black Plague. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
London bridges falling down.
Yes.
That's another one that gets kind of dark.
I know.
Especially when you get into the later verses that I don't know because I've read them, but you never.
And we're not going to sing it either. No. And just to figure out the later verses, no. But anyway, we have a lot of information to get through about vampires and everything. So
and your wife put us on a deadline, even though she started us late.
Yeah. So family things. Yeah. So thanks, honey.
But she is keeping the dog quiet, so thank you.
Yeah,
thank you. We appreciate you.
Yes. Thank you, sweetie. Thank you very much. To a vampire, is blood feeding a religious ritual, a delusion, or a fetish, or all three? I think it'd be why not all three? Yeah. Make it all three. If you're a vampire, go all in.
Right.
Right. So many real life vampires have no belief in the paranormal and have little more than a passing knowledge of like True Blood, or really a lot of the history behind, or Dracula and everything like that. All those movies, a lot of them don't. Yeah, Nosferatu, which is my favorite. What is your favorite Dracula? I love Nosferatu. Personally, I love, what was it, 1929?
Oh gosh,
I can't remember what that was made. 1929.
But sadly, I haven't seen many of the original ones, like the old,
like Bela Lugosi,
the Nosferatu, and like the old Dracula movies.
Okay.
Gosh, so which one is my favorite? I don't know. I don't know if I have one.
Yeah, I'd have to say Nosferatu for me.
I've always been more of a zombie person, personally.
Really? Yeah.
But now, don't get me wrong. Thanks to my childhood, I do enjoy me a little bit of.
Mine is Vampire Hookers from Outer Space.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
I don't know if that's a real movie or not. This is something I make up, and I'd love to write that script.
I bet it probably is a real thing.
It could be. Oh, are you looking it up? Oh, I thought you were looking it up. That's why you're on your computer. Oh, I'm looking up this movie. Let's see what it's about.
Oh gosh.
But you don't have one, huh?
Not really. Crap. What was the one? They did a whole series on them.
True Blood?
No, it started in it's a trilogy, I think. That
they did. Twilight. Twilight is your favorite.
No, fuck that shit. Vampires don't damn sparkle in the sunlight.
I don't want my vampires sparkling. Hell no.
Oh, crap. What was the name of the movie?
They did a series?
Yeah.
A movie series or a book series?
Movie series, and it was vampires versus the lycans.
We were talking.
Why can't I think of the name
my
of it?
God, I can't think of it either. Oh my God. Okay. Well, anyway, while you're looking that up, you can just shout it out right in the middle of the notes that I'm going through as well.
Oh gosh, why can't I do this?
So pretty much, a lot of vampires don't even appear to have psychiatric issues. Instead, they claim to suffer from a strange medical condition, fatigue, headaches, and excruciating stomach pain, which they believe can only be treated by feeding on another human's blood. Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good one. Lost Boys.
That was a good one.
Movie.
That's right. Yep.
Not the one I'm looking for.
No.
Oh, gosh dang it! Why can't I do this?
Oh yeah.
Oh, Underworld.
I was gonna say that. I was gonna say Underwear, but it was Underworld.
Yes, with
right.
Kate Beckinsale.
Oh, when she was the leather. Yeah, I know.
Some of that.
Yes, definitely. Oh yeah, she was a vampire, wasn't she, in that movie?
Yes, she was.
Or was she caught between two worlds, human and vampire?
She was full vampire.
She was full vampire.
Yes,
I thought she was half human, half vampire.
Her little lover boy that was started as human and then got bit by both a vampire and a lichen, and then turned into the
that's right,
hybrid both thingy. Blade.
Yeah, you're right. Blade was that's based on a Marvel comic, right? Marvel.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Blade was the one that is half human, half vampire.
Ah, okay. All right.
He was a daywalker.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, so
another good movie.
There are thousands of people doing this in just the U.S. alone, and their symptoms and behavior are a genuine mystery. For many, real life vampirism or vampirism is a taboo. Over the last few decades, it's become associated with gruesome murders, such as the notorious case of Red Farrell in the U.S. He was a member of a loose-knit gang of teenagers from Murray, Kentucky, known as the Vampire Clan. So it kind of sounds like a Lost Boys type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Farrell claimed to be a 500-year-old vampire named Vasago, a character he created for himself after becoming obsessed with the role-playing game. And I believe it's Vampire Masquerade.
Oh, okay.
I think that's a vampire. I think
was
that's
waiting
the
for
role.
you to say D&D, and I was going to be like, come on.
It's like D&D. Yeah, I know. It seems like all the killers actually blame D&D for everything. Every time they kill, it was D&D that made me do it.
General society blames D&D for all the bad people out there.
Right. Yeah. And so Farrell pleaded guilty to the double slaying of a couple from Eustis, Florida, becoming the youngest person in Florida on death row at the time. And originally sentenced to death, Farrell's penalty was and has since been reduced to life imprisonment. Okay. And so that's it. So throughout history, you can find cases where human blood was considered a bona fide medical cure, right? Like we were talking about. They said that sometimes it could be used to cure epilepsy.
I think so.
Right? Yeah. And then Pope Innocent the Eighth, actually, he had a medical assistant. I believe his doctor actually bled out 2 young boys because of his medical condition, which I can't remember what that was. I can't remember what the medical condition that he had, but I know there was, and also that, he wanted to do that as far as to retain his vivacious youth as well.
I was going to say that was one of the big things I kept reading was, they do this so they can stay young and their, increased vitality and
right.
Yeah.
So later on, it was used to treat, like we said, epilepsy. The afflicted were encouraged to gather around gallows poles and during executions and collect the blood in buckets of the people who were executed. So, yeah. Interesting. I don't know. I could just see all the little kitties in the family and everything, Grandpa who has epilepsy, we're gonna go help him out and collect buckets of blood so he can drink it and gorge himself on it. So blood was a medium between the physical and the spiritual. By drinking the blood of a healthy young man, you were imbibing the spirit and curing whatever afflicted your soul, they believed. The practice seemed to have lived on among a small group of people. Before the age of the internet, they were largely isolated. But through dedicated web pages, they have now forged thriving underground networks. So, so there's a lot of vampires out there now. Yeah. Or what are termed sanguines. Yeah, which means blood red. It's really like a deep red color.
I was going to say, sanguine is color.
Yeah. So I guess that's where they took it from, And so and they really were kind of, a lot of people within the vampire community back in the day they didn't really want to be known, just because of the embarrassment and because of the ridicule that they might have received. And so, they largely stayed isolated. And so, but they come across a wide range of backgrounds.
Oh yeah.
And they're not just the goth characters that we associate vampires with.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of them just come from medical backgrounds, work in restaurants, to hold
could be the
jobs
person
as
sitting next to you right
doctors, lawyers, whatever. Yeah, it could be you. Could be you, Derek. I don't know.
As long as it's not mixed with tomato juice, I'll probably be all right with
it. Yeah. I mean, there are some, though, that, within the community actually do wear fangs and do sleep in coffins. Yes. I know I would. Oh, I would play it out all the way.
If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. Dang it.
Right. I would have the cape, everything. I would wear the white face paint. I would go all the way with it. Oh, I really would want to.
Like, I mean, you run the risk, though. If you go too deep, you become a poser.
That's true.
I'm
going to say you're just trying too hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So that would be a hard one.
Yeah.
Because, like, do you want to blend in with society? And, like, I would probably do some. Like, I might do the fangs. Like, because you can pass off pretty easy when you're not, like, as long as you're not grinning ear to ear all the time,
right?
People aren't really going to notice too much.
You know what I seen, and I think it was on my Instagram feed, and how the advertisements will pop up, and it says "shop now." These wearable fangs that you can wear, and actually the fangs actually retract and extract. So I don't know if it looks like if you just move your mouth muscles, that's how they come out, like a certain way.
Okay, yeah.
And they're showing the advertisement. It's like, as soon as they opened them their mouth, the fangs would drop down. It was kind of cool.
Retractable fangs.
Yeah, retractable fangs.
Can I get them surgically implanted?
That would be cool. Yeah. Get your teeth filed down. Yeah.
Shank.
Right. Yeah, there are real vampire organizations that do feed the homeless, and volunteer in animal rescue groups, and who take up any number of social causes. So they're just like anybody else. They really care about their community.
When you first started, I was expecting you to see something like that, feed off the homeless, and like.
Well, I think that's what a lot of people think.
And then like they. The ones that are like try to be more like not as dark. They go help out at the animal shelters and feed off the animals. Bleed them.
Or you walk in there as an episode. Which dogs are being put down this week? Yeah. Okay, I'll take them. All right, I'll take them home. And I think if you were asked, basically just walk up to anybody on the street and just ask them, do you think vampires really exist? They'll go, no way.
Right.
They probably have no clue that this community actually exists.
It's because when people think of vampires, they think of underworld. They think of, Lost Boys. They think, that's what they think of. Nosferatu, Dracula. They think of the mythical vampire.
Right.
That can turn into bats and sneaks around at night and stuff like that. Not the guy down the road who, for whatever reason, drinks blood or thinks he has to drink blood or whatever it is, they're not thinking of him. They're thinking the evil character vampire,
Well, and also, there are two different types of vampires. There's the psychic vampire.
Yeah.
And that feeds off the energy of other people. Yes. But then there is vampires and vampirism, where they feel that it's purely physiological. It's a physiological, medical, physical need to actually consume blood.
I wonder for some of those if it's like a form of pica.
Pica.
Mm-hmm. Where they have
isn't that something where they just eat strange things like chalk and glass?
It's like an imbalance or something like that of what they like of the nutrients in their body or something like that.
Well, I mean, it's always been said, I remember hearing this, as far as like whatever you crave sometimes is basically what your body needs.
Yeah.
Like there's something in something. Like if you're craving, like, I don't know, Twinkies all the time. Well, there's something in Twinkies that you just really need.
I actually
I don't know, but I've heard that before, and I don't know if it's medically sound or not.
For those that are interested in the healthy living world and stuff like that, I actually came across a chart a while ago of like, hey, if you're craving this super unhealthy food like Twinkies or whatever, chances are this is what your body is actually craving, and that's why you go to this. Instead of eating a Twinkie, eat this over here, and it will give you the same thing that Twinkie has, only healthy. And so, I mean, it could be their body is going, maybe they have an iron deficiency,
right?
And they're like, man, and then they drink the blood, and they're going, man, I feel better. Like I actually feel better after doing this, and it's not the blood, it's the iron in the blood that's replenishing their low iron count. And instead of doing it by eating, actual healthy foods,
right?
They're getting it from blood.
Yeah.
And maybe they've done it so long that that's just like, you can't convince them of otherwise.
Sure. Yeah, vampirism seems to strike around the onset of puberty for some. One person had been 13 or 14 years old when he realized he felt weak all the time and lacking all the energy to run and play sports with his friends like he wanted to.
That's like one of the big things for anemia. Like,
sure,
you're always cold, you're tired,
right?
You don't have energy,
right?
Oh my goodness, you're anemic. You have a lack of iron in your blood.
Yeah.
I'm gonna drink blood. Hey, right. I feel better. Oh, you got iron. Huh?
Yeah. Weird. Well, this is what had happened. He was playing with his cousin, and they were playing with each other. His cousin was cut, and this is what this is what he had said, is that when he brushed up against the cut that his cousin had and the blood, he got blood in his mouth, and he said he automatically felt better. Like you were saying, wow, I feel great. So I don't know, how much blood he actually had. Oh, I don't know.
Did it have a date? Or
no, there was no date. It was just an account of one individual, and so
I could see maybe him watching a few too many vampire movies or something.
Maybe
like that.
In as far as not knowing his background,
one too many times.
He might be this.
Oh, it would be cool to be a vampire, and then that happens.
I mean,
like, oh yeah,
he was 13 or 14 at the time, so he was fairly young.
Mind is easily molded.
Yeah, and maybe a little emo.
Yeah, right.
You never know. Maybe already,
depending on when it was. Like,
right. And depending on his own personal proclivities to what he was interested in at the time, he might have been wearing black capes and walking around with goth paint. Who knows? So, but he said that the taste of blood eventually turned into a compulsive hunger. And so it seems to be a common thing to resonate with most of the vampires. Besides relentless fatigue, other common symptoms appear to include severe headaches and stomach cramps. For instance, some have been plagued with irritable bowel syndrome, which they can only be cured after they drink blood. So they say that it helps regulate them.
Oh yeah.
They can take a nice
Which
healthy
is
poop.
Odd because a lot of
people, nice healthy shit after you drink. You gorge yourself out on some blood.
You drink blood for a lot of people, and it like messes with your stomach.
That's what I had heard. I had heard that it does the opposite.
It does, from personal experience, because I used to get bloody noses a lot as a kid.
Right.
Like maybe it was because it was blood and snot that was going down my throat, but it never had a good response to my stomach. Well,
there was one account that had said, one account of a vampire had said, after consuming a sizable quantity, between about 7 shot glasses of blood, that the digestive system seems to work great. Shot.
Maybe that was my problem growing up, is I didn't drink enough of the blood.
Maybe not.
It's
7 shots worth.
You gotta tip those scales from stomach ache to hey, I feel better.
Right. Yeah. So some sanguines would go more than a week without a bowel movement while hungry and feel nausea when they ate anything other than what they called the cure food, which was blood.
No shit, because you haven't shit in a week. Yeah, you're gonna
Right.
feel sick and nauseous.
So they describe that they receive apparent relief from a complete blood meal. Yeah. I don't know. Is it psychosomatic? Is it sound science? Is it sound medical science?
There might be some, like I said, you're weak and you're tired and you consume blood, you get iron, which helps replenish some of what's
Right.
missing. You know, so there might be some, but I think a lot of it's in their head.
I think it is psychosomatic.
Yeah, it's kind of the placebo effect of,
Right. Well, needless to say, donors are hard to come by. It isn't like you can just walk up to anybody and say, "Hey, can I drink your blood?" Or walk into any blood bank and say, "Hey, can I have a bag of that, please?"
I've got a price. I've got a price.
So you're saying if I said that I wanted to drink your blood, you would say, "Okay, but you're going to have to pay me, right?"
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah,
You want to do it for a friend?
Not for free.
That your blood does not come free.
My blood does not come free. I work hard for this blood, dang
it. So donors are pretty much close friends.
Yeah.
So, whatever the precise nature of the donor-vampire relationship, it's always consensual. The utmost care is taken of the donor, making sure they are relaxed and willing at all times. Yeah.
That's good. Consent is a big thing.
You're right. But, a blood drinker kit, if you're wondering what it includes, just in case you want to go out and buy one on the internet, it includes antiseptic to clean the skin, a squeeze ball, which helps the veins pop out, of course, and a tourniquet to tie around the arm. It sounds like you're just going to the blood bank and just giving blood. That's what it sounds like. Like, yeah, that sounds basically just like what they do at
when you
at the Red Cross,
Yeah, you go donate plasma. That's what they do.
That's what you do. I mean, so there's nothing like any special equipment or anything that they need.
I got nice big veins, and because I used to donate plasma a lot, I have like pre-drilled holes already.
But where is that plasma going, though, Derek? Do you really know where that's going?
I mean, they tell me that it's going to make medications and things of that sort.
Sure,
but and it is only plasma. It's not my full blood. I get most of that back.
Mm-hmm. Right. So just recycled back through.
Yeah.
So after collection, the blood bag is then refrigerated, and it lasts about 5 days in the refrigerator. So then it has a shelf life of about 5 days. Then you open it. Then after the 6th day, you open it up, and then you got mold growing on it, and it kind of looks like that sandwich that's stuck in the back of the refrigerator.
That's weird because, medically speaking, they don't touch blood for a long time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it can take years.
Okay.
For the turnover rate between at least with plasma and stuff like that, it's years of a turnover.
But you're not.
Rate.
But they're not offering it to people to drink. So maybe consuming it to be able to drink it. Maybe it's only good for 5 days.
Yeah, maybe the breakdown that they do to remove what they do for plasma is different, and
maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Doesn't matter if there's a little mold or a little penicillin on the top.
Right, just scrape it off the top. So one sanguine has collected about 15 vials of blood, for one example, some of which is consumed on the spot. The blood is mixed with sodium heparin, which is an edible anticoagulant.
Oh, okay.
So that kind of helps the digestion process for the blood. So maybe, like we were saying before, we thought that consuming human blood itself, that would be probably animal blood to human blood, it actually would make you sick. It could cause serious ailments. But maybe it's because of this anticoagulant.
Right.
Maybe that it breaks that down and helps your body break it down. Maybe. Who knows? So the extraction itself is closer to a medical procedure, and then going in for the kill.
Yeah.
Kind of like an interview with a vampire or something like that. Going in for the neck, going in for the jugular with the set of fangs, retractable fangs.
Beautiful young lady wakes up in the middle of the night.
Oh, always scantily clad too. Always in a negligee or wearing nothing at all. That would be my fantasy if I was a sanguine.
Got the vampire looming in the corner, getting ready to lean over the bed.
Right. Well, typically, both the donor and the vampire are first tested at sexual health clinics or regular blood donation sites. So there's always a test done prior to the feeding process.
At least they're smart about it.
Right. I mean, well, these are the responsible vampires.
These are the doctors and the lawyers and the medical professionals.
You're right. Right. These aren't just the loser vampires.
Right.
That are
these aren't your goth vampires that are chilling out somewhere.
Right. Walking through graveyards and stuff like that.
Hiding out in Louisiana in the bayous and shit like that.
Right.
The other, what part is that? Like, what is it, the French Quarter? That's kind of more
New Orleans
and stuff like that, right?
Kind of more bourgeois. Yeah. Bougie. Yeah. Is that what? Yeah.
It's kind of where you run into like the like if you want to find yourself a witch doctor.
Oh yes.
Those parts of
the more
Louisiana.
Of the okay. Okay. You're not talking more of the bougie parts. You're talking more of the poorer parts of Louisiana.
Well, it's the there's actually
because I know there isn't. I'm trying to think of it.
Either way, the ones that hang out there, and it's a little more underhanded and a little
seedy,
a little more of what you would think about if you thought of a modern vampire, not the sexy version.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah. I can't remember the name of the place either. Oh well, okay. Anyway, so to make the incision, the vampire may use disposable scalpels or syringes, which they open and clean in front of the donor. And they will swab the skin before the first cut. And if they are drinking directly from the wound itself, they are also sure to clean their lips, brush their teeth, and gargle with mouthwash beforehand.
Oh, that's good.
That's always very important. I want a minty mouthwash if a vampire was feeding off of me. Definitely. Right. Or maybe cinnamon. Maybe a cinnamon type of, scent. I would like that, Following feeding, the vampires do not seem to suffer any ill side effects. Although ingesting a large volume of iron could be toxic, like we were saying, the amount consumed in a feeding does not seem to constitute a danger. So, who knows? Maybe there's, particularly, I'm assuming that if they're feeding directly from the incision itself, maybe they're not consuming enough iron. It's kind of like if we cut our finger. And we kind of, try to stop it from bleeding. It doesn't harm us at all. Because I can't imagine, I don't know how much blood would a vampire really get from an incision if they are directly feeding before it starts to, the blood starts to coagulate for the donor.
Assume because it depends. I would think it'd depend on how they did it. Like what we would do is we would just kind of lick it off the top and we'd call it good. And the mixture of the blood and the saliva kind of helps it coagulate a little bit more.
Right.
But if you were to suck on it, like if they were to do a little cut and then you were to suck on that cut, you would be forcing the blood out. So anything that would coagulate would just be pulled out anyways.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
wow. It just sounds like you're ready to go. You got this down. It sounds like you're ready for your feeding.
Just got to find me a virgin so I can drink.
Because it doesn't look like you're enjoying that Bloody Mary that much. Did you want something else to drink? We have stuff in the fridge. We have Viking's blood in the fridge. We also have that. You want to go with the Viking's blood?
Viking's blood.
Okay, excuse me, everybody.
I have blood of a Viking.
Right. I have to go to the fridge right next here. So excuse me. So Derek will keep you entertained while I'm getting the Viking's blood.
Hi.
Hold on.
I can't stand tomatoes. It's not bad. I'm not gonna say it's bad, but it's definitely not my drink of choice. Because it's sad because I like vodka too. That's the hard part. It's but Viking's blood, I can't go wrong with that. I actually had some last night. I just bought myself when I bought the sake the other night. I bought myself a thing of Viking's blood. So, yeah.
All right.
All righty, there we go.
On the table. There you go.
I don't have too many.
All right,
germs,
you should be able to get that down.
If you wanted to finish that, you may if you would.
Oh, whoa, 2 of them. Oh man, it's gonna be fun it's gonna be a fun time at the in-laws today. It's gonna be a really great time. considering that there's how many shots of vodka did I put in this? 8. Trying to figure out mathematically. How did I? About 4 shots? 3 shots of vodka per glass.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Angie.
Hold on, my headphones are twisted around my mic.
Oh gosh.
I felt like I'm being strangled.
We're just off the rails.
Oh my goodness!
Ron's
there we go.
Smacking his microphone.
There we go. This is what it's like. This is why we call it the shit show.
Right.
So anyway,
it has multiple meanings. It's covering life around us that is a shit show, and it is also our podcast, which is a total shit show.
Right. So some vampires have discussed their blood feeding with both a gastrointestinal surgeon and a psychiatrist. Both say that they have been supportive, although neither had any insight beyond the immediate issue at hand. Yeah. So far from relishing the ritual of blood drinking, most of the vampires would pretty much happily give it up. But so far, they say doctors have apparently failed to find other ways to relieve their symptoms. That's what some say. Now I think that's coming directly from the vampires. Yeah, and I think, I don't know if this is actually coming from their doctors saying, no, we didn't find anything, or they're just saying, no, my doctor didn't find any cure for this. So
I was going to say, it's probably one of those things where it's like, this happens. The doctor goes, hey, we should try this. And they go, oh, it's not working. Yep, that didn't work. The only thing that's still working is this.
Right.
Once you get it in your head that's the only thing that's going to work.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's the only thing that's going to work.
Right. Yeah. So many say that they would rather just go through life normally and be able to figure this out medically so they wouldn't have to consume blood. So, but one of their own theories is that they have some problem with their digestive tract, which means they cannot absorb nutrients from usual foods. It is only when they are readily dissolved in blood that their bodies can access those nutrients.
Oh, okay.
That's what they feel in theory. So the vampires are, however, disarmingly open about the possibility that their experiences may be psychosomatic as well. So they're not closed off to that. There are some that do feel that, yeah, it is all mental.
Oh, okay. So at least they're conscious of it. Some of them,
right. They're conscious of it.
That's good. Because that's always a issue with things that are that way. Most people aren't. Right. A lot of people, they're so set that this is how it is, that it's just like, you can't help that. But if they're at least conscious of, hey, this is just a psychosomatic thing,
right?
But I have just this urge, but it's not hurting me to continue, so I'm just going to continue.
Right. And some have stopped feeding altogether just to see if their symptoms would go away.
Right.
But they didn't have any success with it. Their symptoms were still there after even that they had stopped feeding, because they did feel that it was more psychological.
Yeah.
So there might be some truth to it. Yeah, possibly. There might be some medical truth to this. So the relief that comes with drinking blood could be largely psychological, and doctors are still getting to basically how our thoughts affect our physical, our physicality, our own physical bodies, and how our own thoughts do affect that. So, and that's still ongoing. I mean, as far as what we think and, really how that affects our body, and it's homeostasis. So, there is likely a strong placebo effect, akin to ingesting like bitter powders or brightly colored liquids or other substances that do not look or taste like conventional foods. That, that by doing this, that it cures you of something. That's more of a placebo, which there's a lot to be said about the placebo effect.
Oh, heck yeah. That happens a lot. Like a lot of people just end up getting a placebo and it goes, oh yeah, it works. Like,
sure.
Nothing's happening, but sure.
But I think there has to be some serious study done on the placebo effect, and it needs to be taken seriously. And
I'm sure there have been some.
Sure.
There's got to have been, because there's you always see. I've always heard about things like I don't have specifics in front of me because it's the placebo effect, and wasn't sure how much that would come into play into vampirism.
Right.
But I've always heard of things of like they'll actually just give people like was essentially a sugar pill, and they go, "Oh my goodness, I'm feeling better," and it's
right,
like, okay,
right.
Yeah.
So kind of like mind over matter.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if any of these vampires, quote unquote vampires, have had anyone do that for them, where you make a concoction that looks and tastes kind of like human blood, but isn't. It's essentially a Bloody Mary with, a high iron content.
Right.
And they said, "Oh, yep, here you go. This is from donor XYZ. Enjoy." And they drink it and they, "Oh my goodness, I feel great." Or if they go, "Nope, it's not doing it for me. Something's wrong. This isn't blood."
Yeah. I wonder.
Like give it to them like it's, tell them it's artificial blood, or tell them it's real blood, but it's not, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
See if it works. And if it works, then they just get a glass of, they start their morning off with a Bloody Mary every morning.
Right. Where they're not going to have to harvest on any blood anymore, and well, I'm sure if we're thinking it, and I'm sure maybe there's somebody out there in the vampire community that probably has tried it,
right?
Just to see, somebody who is very serious about it, who does not want to consume blood, like what we were talking about. So this placebo effect can be further enhanced if there is a ritual component associated with the ingestion, and if the individual feels a sense of some kind of exclusivity, such as kind of like people who drink rare bottles of wine, So combined with the fact that blood is highly nutritious and a natural laxative, this may be why it offers some temporary relief for both the digestive and mental difficulties that the person may have.
So it is actually a laxative. So it does help them poop.
It does help them poop. It is a laxative.
Okay,
so I don't know if it is naturally or if it, when mixed with an anticoagulant, it acts as a laxative. So, because I'm assuming that it wouldn't be a laxative if it coagulates. That would cause severe stomach cramping, I would assume.
You would think, yeah.
Yeah, you'd become very ill if you did not have the anticoagulant in that.
I mean, it might cause cramping, but it still might help you poo.
It might. Yeah. God. And I tell you, I'm scared to look at some of my poop.
Well, I was gonna say,
imagine the color of that poop. Okay, people, I know this is, we don't want to talk about poop.
All right, poop talk, everyone.
We're talking about color of poop here, and I mean, imagine if you're consuming large amounts of blood, because I know if you're on a meat diet, a complete
blood in
meat
your
diet,
poop is a bad sign.
Of course it is. This is a good sign, though.
But if you're consuming a good amount of blood, you're gonna have. God, that would throw a doctor off that wasn't ready for it.
Oh my God, your blood is like... We're
going to need a stool sample, and it's just like...
Black as night.
Bloody mess.
Well, I know of people who are basically on a complete meat diet. Their poop is really dark.
Oh, yeah.
And so I imagine if you're consuming blood on a daily basis, or maybe on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, it might be a little... Might be afraid to look in the toilet a little bit.
Random, not random. Slight tangent. Do you remember when Burger King did a Halloween like Whopper?
Okay.
It was probably 4 years ago or so. It had a black bun.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember.
Do you remember what it used to do, or what they said it did?
No, I don't.
I tried this and it did it.
Yeah.
It turns your poop bright green. We're talking like the Irish Isles green. Like, holy shit, that's green. Colorblind Derek, red, green, colorblind Derek. It was like, holy shit, that's green. Sorry, talking about turning poop colors and, fun little side story.
Oh my God. Okay, well, let's move beyond poop here. I don't think people are going to be fascinated to talk about vampire poop. I'm sure there's somebody, in the community, maybe has posted, who's in the vampire community, has said, "Look how I shitted today," and posted on their Instagram.
Right. Does it come out black or does it come out red?
That's the question.
That nobody ever wanted to know the answer
There has to
to
be somebody that has pictures. I guarantee it.
Oh,
so some may question whether a thirst for blood is sometimes a sign of a deeper underlying mental health issue. But Stephen Schlotzman, a psychiatrist professor at Harvard University, says that diagnosing these people could be sometimes a tightrope to try to diagnose these people. So he says that, I know that if a patient came to me with this issue as a complaint or was worried about the practice, he said that his first response as a psychiatrist would be to assess for psychosis, since the practice is so far outside of the culturally normal, acceptable way of getting your nutrients. Still, he said that he would keep in mind and explore whether they were genuinely benefiting from the practice. So it is an interesting case study of a prolonged and difficult discussion in psychiatry. Just how do you avoid medicalizing harmless but unusual activities without accidentally missing people who genuinely need help, he said. Makes sense, right? So he kind of says, well, it's okay. First, he does it the right way. See if there's any psychosis there. If not, then I think pretty much it's saying, hey, maybe there is something behind it. That's what it kind of sounds like he's saying.
Yeah.
He's kind of giving leeway to the science to it.
I was going to say, it's one of those, if it helps and you're not hurting anyone.
Right.
I mean, like I've said before, I always have the libertarian mindset of, if you're not hurting anyone, I really don't care.
Right.
If you can find somebody to donate blood to you, then have fun.
Right. He even goes on to say that we have a collective tendency to label unconventional behaviors as psychiatric abnormalities. I think the vodka is starting to kick in this Bloody Mary. And these Bloody Mary and the Bloody Marys. Yeah. But some say there is no basis for describing it as such if the individual and their donor are comfortable with their unconventional nutrient choice. Okay. Some are using commercial companies such as 23andMe and uBiome, for instance, who are starting to profile the genes and microbiomes of other medical sanguines.
Really?
Yes. The point of inquiry is not about validation for their vampirism. It is to find more socially practical ways to fulfill whichever deficiency or need that they ultimately have. Basically, they are seeking more treatment options. Yeah. So maybe they're looking for something within the family gene pool, pretty much, to see if there's something further on down the line that might be causing this, that maybe they're not aware of right now.
I should get a hold of 23andMe and Ancestry.com and see what they got.
Right.
Be like, hey, so are any of my relatives,
Were they vampires? So, I don't know. I mean, what do you think medically? I don't think there's anything wrong with it. If the donor is okay with it.
Exactly.
And of course the vampire feels that they need it, and then why not?
Right. And if there's no ill side effects,
sure.
And from what it sounds like, they're saying, from a medical standpoint, that as long as you do it right and you're getting things checked out and everything else beforehand.
Right.
Enjoy.
Why not?
I mean, it's no worse than drinking like alcohol or something like that, which is arguably worse.
Right.
And negative side effects on the body and actions while drunk, and know. Well, as long as you're coming across your blood from a willing donor,
mm-hmm.
I know.
Personally, for me, I think I kind of find it sexy.
Really?
I don't know. It's kind of a kink, I guess. Maybe it's a kink. I don't know.
Vampires nowadays are viewed as a very sexual creature.
Sure.
They didn't used to be. Like the original stuff was creepy and dark and evil, but nowadays it's they're always portrayed as the Kate Beckinsales or your little
you're hoping
vampire.
You and I are hoping
she could suck on my neck anytime she wants.
I'll suck on your neck. Yes.
I mean,
So yeah, I mean, and this is where we're trying to, and this is what we're talking about, the kind of like the sense of community now, where that sense of community actually started. It started back in the 70s with the soap opera Dark Shadows, which was a vampire soap opera. Did you ever watch like any episodes of Dark Shadows, or like seen anything like on YouTube or anything like that? Yeah. Yeah. It's centered around a vampire named Lestat.
Oh my goodness. So I saw the new movie.
Yeah, there is a movie with Johnny Depp who plays Lestat in Dark Shadows, the remake. I believe it was Johnny Depp.
Yep. Yeah. I've seen that. I did not realize that was an old school soap opera.
From the 70s. It was an old school soap opera. That is great. Right up there with General Hospital and One Life to Live, man. Gosh. Yeah, it was fairly popular, and I caught like a couple early episodes of it. Not back in the 70s, but I had looked online just to see what it was about, because when the remake came out, I thought, okay, I want to check this out, see what the soap opera was like. Yeah, it was soap opera-ish, but it had the whole gothic horror theme to it, with Lestat being the central character.
Was it kind of comedic relief a little bit?
No, it was very serious. Very serious, like any soap opera was very serious. And very bad acting, but very serious.
Because I know
you got to take my bad acting very serious when I'm sucking your blood.
Right. Because I know Dark Shadows, the movie,
it had a comedic element.
Yeah, a little bit of a...
No, this didn't at all. I don't know why they interjected comedy into the remake. Didn't make sense to me. It was like, okay, it was kind of off, because the soap opera was very serious. So I don't know. So it started around Dark Shadows conventions, events for blood fetishes and bondage, and S&M conventions. Yes.
Go figure.
That's that's a no-brainer right there, right?
Right. Of course it's S&M. Because like you said, it's one of those... It's kind of a darker fetish.
Sure is. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It is.
Blood, and
anytime
injury is truly involved.
Right. It's a very darker fetish. And especially once you get around like the blood cults and the blood orgies and everything like that. Yeah, it becomes a little bit underground. It isn't so mainstream that, your next door neighbor is hosting a blood orgy in their living room.
You've seen Underworld, right?
Yes.
Or no, not
True
Underworld,
Blood.
or Blade.
No,
You've seen Blade.
Blade,
right?
I did, yeah.
There's the part, I think it's in the first one, where there's the girl and the guy, and they're driving through town, and she's flirting with him and everything else. And she takes him like into this building and through a meat locker, and they go into this club. And everyone's down there dancing and everything else, and all of a sudden it starts raining blood from
I
the
remember
ceiling,
that part. Yeah.
And everyone starts like making out and everything else.
Right.
I can see where that might get a little hot.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, you can kind of understand what that would be a fetish.
It's
definitely.
It's that taboo hot. It's like, this shouldn't be happening.
Well, there's something about being covered in blood and sloshing around with half-naked bodies and then fully naked bodies, and just feeling that. Yeah, I mean, it kind of becomes a sexual turn on. So I can understand that why, vampirism and this would be associated with those type of S&M bondage fetishes and stuff like that.
Like the biting of the neck and stuff like that. I mean, we already have like the tame version of giving hickeys and stuff like that. All it requires is something a little bit sharper, like fangs, and a little bit more pressure, and you're there. Like most normal, quote unquote, normal people are already 90% of the way there.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. Well, all of these conventions and S&M and bondage and fetishes and stuff like that all allowed for the networking of more donors.
Yeah.
More they could find. It wouldn't have to be just your best friend that would be giving you the blood. It will be whoever, could be somebody who you meet at one of these conventions that is willing to do it because they might find it to be a sexual turn on type of fetish.
Bleed me, baby.
Yeah.
Bleed me dry.
Yeah, but also allow them to find and share their condition with other people that might have the same condition as well. And they might think, oh, I'm not the only one. Now I can meet up with other people that are more willing to talk about it, that feel more comfortable within this group to talk about it more.
That would be a great little couples meetup. Like you've got,
imagine the dating app.
you got James and Jane over here who are like hardcore vampires, and they just feel so left out because none of their friends understand what's going on. And then you've got Billy and Jackie on the other hand, who are like, man, we just like getting cut is kind of fun and bleeding and all this stuff. And we'd love to be able to donate our blood. And then they meet up at their little S&M party, and next thing you know, they're going on double dates together.
How cute. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's talking about it, you know. Everybody's jealous. Oh God, I can't stand them. They're so perfect. So it was in the early 70s. Some of the first organizations dedicated to the studying vampires were also taking shape. Gene Keys Youngson founded the Count Dracula fan club. Now the Vampire Empire. The Vampire Empire. I love that. I love it. Vampire. I love saying it. Vampire Empire. Right. So yeah, now it's the Vampire Empire, but that was founded in, the Count Dracula fan club, now known as the Vampire Empire. I just want to keep saying it.
The Vampire Empire.
In 1965. So that was back in the day. That was before the 70s, before these conventions. Yeah. So originally as an organization dedicated to the Dracula and vampire fiction and film aspect of it. So between 1970 and 72, Youngson began receiving letters from people who self-identified as vampires. So pretty much after all of these conventions started to take place. So by 1974, after meeting with some of her vampire fans, she extended the group's purview to include real vampirism and demonstrating some of the first intellectual interest in the topic. So, so it started to be taken more serious. Like, there's something going on here.
Yeah.
So let's create more of a larger community, you know?
Accepted.
Accepted. To an extent. Still underground. Still on the darker aspect of it.
As far as comparison between the 1970s and like the 1600s, accepted.
right. When it was considered evil and satanic.
Exactly.
And we're gonna drive a stake through your heart.
Yeah.
And burn you at the stake, or hang you.
If anyone were to hear a rumor of you thinking you were a vampire, you'd get staked. Where this way, this like it's the weirdos over in the corner compared to get the townspeople together. We're forming a mob.
Right. Pitchforks and torches.
Right.
Reminds me just the old scene in like, what was it, Frankenstein? We're marching up to the castle. That's what it reminds me of. So, but in the 1980s, ethnographers began to identify subsections of the vampire community, including people who experience sexual gratification through bloodletting rituals. And that's where you kind of get these, the blood cults and stuff like that, and, like we were saying before, I could see, definitely you're getting together with all your friends, or you network out to people that like doing this thing. They get together at your house, you lay down some plastic sheeting,
right?
And you let the blood fly, let it rain on you, I don't know.
Red Wings is a thing, Ron. Red Wings is a thing.
Who knows? I'm sure there probably are some that get turned on by that as well. I mean, it happens. It's out there. It's all out there for the taking, and who are we to judge?
Right. I mean, I'm sure there's things I do that people think is pretty odd and pretty
really?
weird.
You want to get into that?
No, let's not.
I'm sure there is. I thought you were ready to divulge some of those sexual deviant things that you do.
Shit. But I mean, we all have our oddities about ourselves,
things that
whether it's sexual or normal.
Even I have
non-sexual, sexual or non-sexual.
Even I have to cringe at myself sometimes.
Right? Did that just get me hard? I feel weird.
Whoa,
I shouldn't have done that.
I need to go see a psychiatrist.
I need to go talk to somebody.
Right.
This isn't okay.
So eventually the community grew in the 1990s, but real vampires still existed mostly in isolation or in small groups, relying on nearby fan conventions, low circulation newsletters, and printed correspondences. Yeah, so it was still underground.
Vampire today. I can see it.
Right. Find your inner vampire. Call 1-800-VAMPIRE. Then all at once, the confluence of cultural trends facilitated the rapid growth of the real vampire community. The first was the rise of, guess who? Anne Rice. Anne Rice conventions were starting to pop up. Yeah, author of Interview with a Vampire. Rice had begun writing her gothic fiction in the 1970s, but the 1994 film, based upon her book, Interview with a Vampire, brought vampirism to the forefront and into mainstream society. And I tell you, I mean, I think, definitely it did help the community grow, I think.
Right.
And where it was becoming more acceptable is maybe not the right terms that I should use.
I mean, I think
more of a fascination where it became,
I think acceptable is the right term.
More of an interest, maybe more of a mainstream interest, maybe not so acceptable, because I don't think, middle-aged women that were going to see Interview with a Vampire would, even though they may have found it either as a sexual turn on to watch Tom Cruise suck the blood from somebody else's neck. I don't think that they thought, wait a minute, I'm curious about this. I want to find out more about this. I don't think they're willing to go to next door to Marge and say, hey, I need a cup of sugar. And hey, let's talk about vampirism.
As acceptable as like the goth community was accepted, I think.
Oh, okay.
So not necessarily like acceptable as like, suburbia is acceptable.
Okay.
But it's acceptable as you see a goth kid and you go, oh, it's a fucking weird goth kid, and you just kind of move on.
Right.
Even though for me it was like that goth kid, like, hey, how you doing over there? I know I'm just weird and nerdy and geeky, but how you doing?
Right. You weren't going to let her move on, and you weren't going to move on either until you at least got her number.
Or until she ran away scared of me. Because, I was just an awkward, freaking scrawny as hell, 125-pound kid back in the day,
Yeah, and you didn't have such a luscious beard. But you did say that you did have a beard back in the day, didn't you?
Facial hair since freshman year of high school.
Hard to believe. Freshman year.
Damn,
your 5 o'clock shadow must have been crazy when you're like in 8th grade.
I started shaving in 8th grade.
Holy crap. Really?
Yeah. And then I've had a goatee since freshman, like a consistent goatee since freshman year of high school.
God, that's amazing.
I'd let the beard grow in every once in a while. Then I'd shave it back down. And
I
got too lazy to shave is what happened. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to shave the whole thing. So I'll shave this.
Well, especially a teenager with a beard. I mean, teenagers are just somewhat lazy anyway. Then to have to actually keep up with a beard. Or to keep shaving all the time? It's like,
that's why I never let it go long. I'd always trim it short.
Right. Yeah. So, all right. Well, back to our topic. Just as Dark Shadows gatherings had just had done to a lesser degree to a few decades earlier, and just as before, they provided closeted real vampires with opportunities to meet other vampires, as well as people willing to satisfy their blood appetites. So the second, I guess, influence, and which allowed the community to come out more, was the publication of a 1991 role-playing game, Vampire: The Masquerade. It was essentially Dungeons and Dragons for vampires.
Oh, okay.
So the role-playing game introduced a social space with which real vampires could congregate and network openly. Well, there we go. So you could sit around the table, play a little D&D, so to speak, inspired game role play, and actually really get into the role. Yeah, I'm assuming that's probably there are people out there that feel they have no mental condition or medical condition or any sort of physiological reason or like to consume blood. But I'm sure there were probably a lot in the community that just wanted to do it just for the kicks. Yeah. I just want to consume your blood just because.
Right.
I want to see what it's like, or to as a sexual turn on.
Yeah.
So I don't think probably a lot within the vampire sanguine community. There's probably some that aren't doing it for medical purposes. Or even psychological. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Psychological is a gray area there. It's a very gray area because, I mean, do you feel that if you have a proclivity to do it, doesn't mean there's a psychological aspect of you that has gone untapped, or is it just curiosity? Now, curiosity blending over to a psychosis, it's a gray area there.
It is to an extent. I think if you're doing it just because it's a turn on, I wouldn't say it's a psychological thing.
Right.
Just because it's literally just that. I mean, depending on how extreme it gets, if blood is the only thing that gets you going,
sure,
I think at that point you have to go, okay, something's wrong. There's a psychological issue going on.
Sure.
Where if it's, spank me daddy and it gets you going,
like little light S&M and stuff like that.
Yeah, like if it's something like that where it's something that can be added in to make things a little more intense for you,
yeah,
that's fine.
Sure. But if you're dragging a body into a bathtub and slicing off part of a butt cheek and consuming it like in our last episode, I think maybe you've gone a little too far with like vampirism.
If you need blood to excite you,
yeah,
then there's the issue.
Yeah, you might want to seek some help.
Even though I did have a female friend of mine that had the experience of, while in the middle of intimacy, the guy pulled out a pocket knife and cut her thigh.
What?
Yeah, without
her consent?
Without telling her.
Oh my God. Imagine how horrified she would have been. So was this is this a close friend of yours or?
Was back in high school. Yeah.
Oh my God.
But or high school, college.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was just yeah.
Can you imagine?
Just it freaked me the hell out after.
You would think at that point you're going to be sliced into little pieces, right?
What's gonna go through your head?
Right.
Oh God.
So do you remember any of the conversation? Did you say that she stopped right away, or did she say, "Hey, whoa, all right, let's do this"?
I wish I was still in touch with her because I would definitely ask her more questions about it.
And maybe ask her, "Hey, are you still into?"
Right. Did you ever actually get into?
Did you ever really like that?
Or did you get really creeped out? I can't remember.
Did you have him do that the second time?
But I wonder if he was one of the ones that, maybe not necessarily drinking blood, but blood was a turn on.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Who knows? Either the blood was the turn on or the aspect of cutting was the turn on.
I was gonna say
that would be even that would be going into a very dark area. Right, I was
gonna say because that's kind of the psychosis portion of it. Is it the blood that's the turn on, or is it the injuring and causing of pain that's the turn on?
Right. Because
blood is one thing, but hurting someone, that's where you're crossing that line of going, no, that's not healthy.
Right.
That's bad. That could potentially lead to a lot of other things, like what we were talking about with our last episode with cannibalism, of actually eating flesh that doesn't, blood is pretty easy. I can donate blood I can donate plasma once a week. Blood, I think, is once a month, I think. But I can donate a good portion of blood once a month and be perfectly okay. You can't really do that with flesh, and so you're getting, we were saying, in our last episode, we were talking about, doing it consensually, and it's that's getting a little dark. That's getting a little more on the permanent damage side than the simple drinking of blood.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So, I think you're right. I mean, when you're looking at that, and I think that's probably maybe why some of the people that do have this, that feel that they question it. Is it psychosomatic? Is it physiological? But also, I would be questioning it myself. Is it more psychological?
Right.
What am I dealing with psychologically? Do I have a proclivity to harm somebody?
Yeah.
And so that's
I can see where that's a worry.
Yeah, that would be a scary thing.
Yeah, like I don't want to get to that point where
Right.
like I'm now starting to attack people so I can fulfill my fetish
Right.
or my need, whatever it is, whether it's sexual or physiological, where it's like, man, I like something's wrong with my intestines and I need blood so I can poop regularly, or I'm tired and I'm lethargic and I need blood for energy.
Yeah.
Whatever the case may be, I can see that fear of
Sure.
like, how far am I not necessarily willing to go, but how far will I go?
Right.
Because a lot of people don't want to hurt people, but they do because of
Right.
that need for whatever they're trying to accomplish is so strong that at that point their need overcomes their morality, I guess, and they go beyond what they thought they were capable of.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the history of vampires goes back to some of the mythologies, which I was really surprised. In Egypt.
Oh, yeah.
In some of the history, particularly when it goes that far back, becomes somewhat convoluted, I had found. I mean, it was very,
it's vague. It's hard to come
yes.
across like legitimate sources.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically based on theories.
Yeah.
Really. So we can't really say that this is hard fact.
Yeah.
To know that the Egyptians were doing this because of this, but this is based on some of the mythologies surrounding some of the gods and goddesses at that period in time, and some of the attributes and some of the things that they were associated with that led to people theorizing that these were some of the first accounts of vampirism, and vampires.
Yeah.
So not umpires, but vampires.
Those damn umpires sucking all the blood.
The story of Sekhmet, the Egyptian feline warrior goddess associated with both the plague and healing, is considered by some to be one of the oldest vampire tales. Legend holds that the sun god Ra sent his daughter Sekhmet down to punish humankind for their disobedience. But after Sekhmet couldn't stop drinking blood amid her slaughter, Ra quelled her planet-draining thirst by dyeing a bunch of beer red, and thus she consumed very mass quantities of it and slept, I believe, for 2 or 3 days. That's the mythology behind it.
And hence the Bloody Mary was born.
Right there, that's the first Bloody Mary right there. I think that's true. So, but there is a local organization. Not local. What am I talking about? Local, not local. But a current organization.
Here in Holland, Michigan, we have this organization.
Yeah. No, a current organization that kind of follows this history and follows this mythology back to ancient Egypt, and it's based upon what is called the Essentium Bible. So, and it was a lot of this research that went into the Essentium Bible was gathered by the author Louis Marquise. He felt that there was a secret magical order that was called Aset Ka. So, and that's the order that exists nowadays.
Oh, okay.
It's a secretive order of real-life vampires that represents a spiritual path and a metaphysical system centered around dark magic and a paradigm of predatory spirituality. So we're talking left-hand path type of magic.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody wants to associate it with Satanism or something like that, but not really. It's more left-hand path, dark magic, stuff like that. That he kind of draws back to the mythologies of Egypt.
Yeah.
So, and kind of makes those associations to support this quote unquote magical, dark religious order that exists nowadays.
There is actually an asetka.org.
Yeah, there is.
Is that where you got that from?
There is, yes.
I just typed it in real quick and I was like, oh shit.
There is. Yeah, that is an actual order here that exists nowadays for vampires. Yeah. And it kind of gives more of a religious aspect. I guess more meaning to being a vampire.
Yeah.
Right? You just want to you just don't want to
have an
feel
origin story.
Exactly.
Anytime you have an origin story, it makes it more meaningful. Like whether it's, you're talking superheroes and like comic strips and stuff, like you have that origin story, you know where it came from. Or if it's real life and like where you came from originally, like, and how your family was, like that origin story is important. So having that is it I can see it being how that can be meaningful,
Right.
It's important.
Yeah. The organization holds a close connection with ancient Egypt, where its name, Aset Ka, can roughly be translated to the essence of Isis. So Isis basically is the Greek name for the Egyptian goddess Aset. And so that's where they draw those associations from. So according to the Assyrian culture, the primordial vampires lived in Egypt among humans and as part of the pharaonic royalty and its armies. This theory is in tune with the ancient Egyptian belief that the pharaoh and sometimes his royal family were not human, but partially divine. So, which we know that the Egyptians really believe that, so, that is fact based on, historical accounts.
The belief is fact.
The belief is fact. The belief is fact, but is it fact that they actually feel that way? Well, that's up to them, for them to know.
Well, them believing that is, fact, but whether they were divine is not fact.
Yeah, exactly. So these vampires that existed at the time were called Assyrians, where the word vampire represents more of a modern designation created by mankind to describe them due to their predatory nature. They are said to be spiritual descendants of a set, and they can be metaphysically distinguished by three lineages. The serpents from the Viperian lineage, the scorpions from the Guardian lineage, and the scarabs from the concubine lineage. They differ in both spiritual and metaphysical characteristics, where the serpents are usually connected with the leadership of the Aset Ka, known for their powerful and devastating metaphysical abilities in parallel with the ageless sense of wisdom. So these basically are the serpents of the Aset Ka order. Now, I don't know, and I had a hard time finding any historical basis for this order, as far as based upon Marquise's work. I couldn't really find anything from other credible sources. Yeah. I had really a hard time finding, okay, was there an order back in Egypt that was founded upon, say, a set cultic order?
Yeah.
Was there a cult order back in Egypt time that followed a Set or Sekhmet? Were they vampire? Were there people actually back at that time draining people's blood and drinking it, or were they having these massive blood orgies or whatever? I couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
In history.com to Scientific America to all of the credible news sources that are out there. I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, as I say, I had a problem with that too. Like I would come across the oldest stuff I would find was like 16th century, or like the 1600s from Europe. And then when you read into that, or like there was a couple of like documentaries on it that I had listened to and stuff like that. And you would always hear, oh, this came from, like, the idea originally most likely came from Egypt or Asia or something like that, and then was moved over to Europe eventually. But they never get into what the older version was. It
Right.
was just, this is where it may have came from, and that's all we know.
Sure. And there may be historians out there that go, oh, yeah, there is. There was say,
Yeah.
a blood cult back in Egypt that followed Sekhmet or that followed
Yeah.
ISIS. But I couldn't find anything. And
Yeah,
I couldn't
same
find
here.
anything to back up, you
Yeah.
know, the research that he did for this
Yeah.
book and to basically bring forth this type of work that would give vampirism more of, you know, more of a foundation.
Right. Yeah, like there was
particularly a metaphysical or spiritual foundation.
Yeah, there was like a thing I was listening to from A&E, and they just were like, well, we believe it came, like, this version of the vampire came from Asia. Anyways, back to Europe.
Yeah, it seemed like Europe really has been the more of like the hub for vampirism and vampires.
I think that's where I don't want to say the modern view of the vampire, but where the more modern view of the vampire started.
Sure.
You know, I mean, because back then it was truly undead relatives coming back to life to feed on their families.
Right.
Dark, scary, not fun, not cute and sexy, not Kate Beckinsale, not any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But it eventually just turned into the idea of, well, these people are living forever. They don't age. Like, why wouldn't they be suave, sophisticated, and sexy?
All I have to say is it was unfortunate for them that they were born back then.
Yeah.
Too bad they weren't born now to see the Kate Beckinsales and vampires. Right. Then they would have a totally different,
then it would be
different perspective on vampires. It would be totally different. Europe would have been totally different. So we talked about the serpents from this order. Now, the scorpions are the archetype of love, loyalty, and intense sexuality, known for their impressive, subtle shields and advanced defensive magic. Whatever that means in association with the left-hand path of dark magic and Egypt and these associations.
I wonder if that's where the sexy vampire comes from.
What, from the scorpion type of archetype?
Because you said they were the
so maybe there is some basis to this on an archetypal level.
Yeah.
To where, like you were saying, the sexy vampire, that aspect of sex comes from the sexual energy. Yeah. Might be.
Because, I mean, even in, I hate going back to modern, like, movies and shit like that. But even in your, like, underworld style, you have your Kate Beckinsales, which are, like, the high class, the sexy vampire, all of
I think you're going to go home and rub one out on Kate Beckinsale.
I got to go home
while you're watching Underworld
real quick. Oh. I mean, come on. Can you blame me? But like, even in those movies, there were like the underclass. Like there were feral vampires that were purely for feeding and destruction. Like there were those style vampires even in those movies.
They did have that class level, didn't they?
Yeah.
In those movies. Kind of associated with this.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if that was what kind of this is relating to. Was
maybe that's where they got their inspiration for that work. Maybe this is something that they drew from. Who knows? But then at last you have the scarabs, are the most common of the three lineages, highly adept at energy and mental manipulation. So we're talking about the energy vampires, which some people who are vampires feel, the psychic vampires, that they feel that they are truly psychic vampires. And there are some people that feel that they have known psychic vampires and they feel that their energy has been drained from them. I mean, I think all of us kind of have friends that are kind of like that, that we feel that we're around, or maybe in relationships where we feel our energy, and we feel we are psychically,
I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything.
I think I know what you're talking about. Hopefully, you're not talking about me.
No,
I'm looking at you going, wait a minute. Maybe it's your.
I get
maybe
good
it's,
energy
maybe it's your
from
host.
you.
Maybe it's that other host you're talking about. I don't know.
I get good energy from you. I come over and it's like, yeah, we're podcasting. Like I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, we're podcasting today. I get here and it's like, yeah, we're podcasting today. Like,
okay, so that's good to know. Okay, I'll scratch my name off the list on that one. So these are basically the scarabs are known for energy and mental manipulation. They are cherished for their inborn ability to operate as high quality donors in an energy exchange or a vampire feed. So we're looking at these are the people that are what we traditionally probably know as vampires nowadays.
Oh, okay.
That either psychically drain people for whatever reason, or will feed off of their physical body for energy. So there we go. So I don't know about this. I don't know if this is the order of a Set Ka is made up by this author or not. Right. I don't know what to think because if I could not find anything. Yeah. But they say, and they have said that this author, and I don't know if it's just coming from his publisher or not, trying to boost his popularity up, saying that he's an expert in this field. Yeah. That he drew from ancient wisdom and that he drew from historical accounts or whatever. I couldn't find any historical accounts that associate this other than the mythologies associated with Sekhmet.
Anytime somebody says they're an expert in something weird and odd, I question it. It's like, who made you an expert? Like,
because this book is only published through the Order of a Set Ka. They have their own publishing. It hasn't been picked up by either any reputable mainstream publishing, or it hasn't been picked up by any popular occult publishers such as Weiser or Llewellyn, which are two really popular occult publishers. Yeah. So it hasn't been picked up by them either. It's only published through the Order of a Set Ka. So that makes me question the authenticity behind this research, or the basis of this sort of religion really existing back in ancient Egypt. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe somebody's out there that knows.
It kind of strikes me the same way as, like, despite whether or not I believe in aliens or not, but like experts in alien stuff.
Yeah.
Like, how are you an expert if we have no hard evidence?
I can say that I'm an expert in elves and gnomes.
Exactly.
What credibility does that give me?
Yeah. Like, you're read some mythological books about them, like, right? What? Like, because it's not like you have an elf and. Do you have an elf in that behind? I've never seen all the way in behind that door. Do you have an elf on like a medical table, like half dissected right now?
There are physical proof. There is physical proof of elves existing, and maybe in that room, maybe one of these days we'll let the world know.
It's just a midget, isn't it?
Midget dressed as a leprechaun.
You just dissected some little person that you came across.
Hey, St. Patrick's Day is going to be fun here at the shit show. Can't wait till we unleash the leprechaun. That little guy in that back room. He's been waiting to get out of there. So we got to wait till St. Patrick's Day to find out. So anyway, I don't know. If anybody out there has any idea as far as the credibility behind these assertions that are proposed by the Order of a Set Ka and through this book, let us know. Yeah. But as far as we know, it's kind of a gray area.
You can find us on Instagram, Facebook.
Whoa, not yet. No, not yet.
You can leave a comment on Apple. You can whatever. You can email us at theshitshow@wcl.com.
You're getting way ahead of yourself here, Jerry.
Let us know what you think.
But
episode over. We're done.
But this is where it becomes fun. This is where the fun and games of all of this. Do we want to call this fun and games as far as being a vampire? Kind of comes to
bleeding people and draining their blood is great fun.
But we're talking about the super wealthy doing it now. Now it becomes a game changer. The super wealthy are getting in on the game of being vampires. I don't know if you'd really call them vampires or not, but yeah, the super wealthy are now pumping themselves with the blood of young people in an attempt to prevent themselves from aging.
Yes.
So as in 2017, over 100 people had participated in a clinical trial at a San Francisco startup offering blood transfusions for older patients. Each procedure cost about $8,000.
Yes.
And it sees the patient injected with 2.5 liters of plasma, the liquid element of blood that remains after other cells have been removed and taken from a younger person.
We touched
what about
on
that, huh?
Already.
Yeah.
We did touch on this on our last QAnon episode, our part 3 of QAnon.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I believe you are talking about the Ambrosia LLC.
Ambrosia, yeah. Yes. But Ambrosia doesn't exist anymore as Ambrosia, right?
Correct. They are now IV Plasma.
And they're still in existence today?
As far as I know, it's kind of hard because when I looked it up, it was Ambrosia LLC started. The owner of that, the FDA put out some stuff like, hey, be careful. This is a load of hogwash. This isn't right. Like there's no real evidence of this working. And so like their stock value dropped, customer base kind of dissipated. But then they reemerged as IV Plasma. And then it just no more information.
Mm-hmm.
Like the rise of IV Plasma, like right after Ambrosia disappeared, like months later, IV Plasma arose. And then you don't hear anything else. Like as of like, what was it? 2001, I think was the last article I found about IV Plasma.
Yeah. Yeah. The last one I found was it was an article written in 2022 and still, it was still talking about older information.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't talking about anything really current, but it was an article that was published in 2022.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know what's going on.
Maybe that was what I came because it was like it was still talking about stuff like from 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
And it was like that was it. It didn't tell you like what was happening now.
Right.
It didn't say anything like that.
Right.
Which makes me wonder,
were they shut down again? Did they run out of funding? What happened?
Well, you have the logical side, which is they were shut down or nothing interesting is happening, or you have the conspiratorial side.
I love that side.
Freaking
that's fantastic.
And that side is being suppressed and not talked about because of all the weird stuff that's starting to come out with, I should say that had come out with like the Epstein stuff and like a lot of the other weird stuff kind of going on in the world nowadays.
Yeah.
That's come to light. Maybe they're leaving that and going, hey, we're not going to publish about IV Plasma and what's going on now because that's going to raise some questions about some of the rich and famous in the world today.
Yeah, you might be right. I mean, I could see IV Plasma not wanting to do anything like that. They didn't want to be associated with the conspiracy theories or or anything happening with Epstein at this time.
Right. I was going to say,
makes sense.
And maybe it's a legit thing of we're going to back off right now because we're not those weirdo creepers that they're talking about. We're actually legit and we're curious on if this is actually going to work or not. And if this is a real science that we need to pursue. Yeah. I mean, there's both aspects of the quote unquote conspiracy of either they're nefarious and they want to stay out of the limelight because they're nefarious and weird shit's happening, or there's the other side of it of they don't want to get tied into the conspiracy and so they're staying out of the limelight just to be like, hey, let's let all this weird shit kind of pass over so we don't lose our company again.
Well, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you stand out in the forefront and be like, yes, we are open. We do this. We are a medical office that is offering these, blood transfusions so we can see what happens.
Right.
Even though it's not FDA approved or medically sound information as of yet. Or do you just go, we're just going to back off and, but then on one side, it's a cover up because you're way too out in the open and the best place to hide is in plain sight, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then on the other hand, if you're too secretive, people wonder what happened behind closed doors.
Sure.
Yeah. So like you said, damned if you do, damned if you don't. They're kind of screwed either way.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if the procedures are still being done this way or what's going on. But anyway, back in 2017, the procedure was being offered as an experimental attempt at rejuvenating the elderly. The median patient age was about 60 years. It could help improve things such as the appearance of diabetes or heart function or memory. These are all the aspects of aging that pretty much have a common cause. The new treatment comes on the back of several studies over the last, at that time, over the last 17 years, in which Stanford researchers have shown the joining of circulatory systems known as parabiosis.
Say that word again.
Parabiosis?
No, the one before that.
Circulatory.
There you go. It came out a little slow.
Circulatory.
Like,
right.
Whoa, Rod, are you okay?
Known as parabiosis. Yes. So I think I'm making it through with all this vodka.
Stroked out.
I think I have I think I have more vodka running through my system than I do blood at this point.
But the funny thing is you did say that whatever.
Parabiosis.
You said that like it was nothing.
There you go.
But circulatory, you couldn't get out to save your life.
So let's see. Yeah. So the joining of the circulatory system, known as parabiosis, there you go, between old and young mice to be effective in rejuvenating organs, muscles, and stem cells. Yes. Additionally, a study in 2016 found that the plasma of young people itself had a rejuvenating effect when injected into older mice.
Yes.
So they're saying that there is some sort of credence to this.
Yeah, I was going to say, I saw there's been, I don't want to say conflicting research, but like one study will show like, hey, yeah, this shows promise. This shows something, like something's happening. But then somebody else will do something. They'll be like, it doesn't really show much.
Right.
But then somebody else will do something. They're like, oh, dude, like, check it out. Like, it actually shows. And then somebody else will do something like,
yeah.
So it's
well, that seems to be the way it goes in the medical research community
I was
anyway,
gonna
right?
say, yeah, that like,
you have some that say it does, some say that it don't. Either one, whatever you're researching, whatever it is.
Look at what we just went through with COVID.
Yeah, there you go. That's a perfect example.
Masks help. Masks don't help. Well, if you look at this, they actually make the numbers skewed so it looks like it helps more. But then you hear the other side and they go, well, if you actually look at their research, they skew the numbers so it looks like it doesn't help. And then, oh, well, this blankety blank, well, it looks like it helps, but it really doesn't. And it's just a clusterfuck.
Yeah. So
and I'm sure the research is the same.
Yeah, it's the same, I think, in this case as well. Critics have also pointed to the dangers of unnecessarily exposing people to the potential risks of blood transfusions, which some of the risks include hives, lung injury, and fatal infections.
Yes. Hives, I know, is a big one. Ex-wife, soon to be ex-wife. I think we got like 10 more days left before it's finalized.
Okay. Celebrate good times. Come on.
She used to get IVIG infusions.
Oh, okay.
Which is essentially a form of like a plasma infusion, essentially.
Right.
But hives, bone pain, things like that were normal for a couple days afterwards. Like it, because your body just gets affected by, ironically, being allergic to blood is an odd thing.
It's an odd thing?
But it's possible.
Oh,
People
so
have it.
okay, so it's not a common thing.
It's like like because there are some people that are like legitimately allergic to blood, and then there are others where you just have like a bad reaction.
Okay.
You know,
Kind of like hives or something like that.
Exactly.
Just something that mild that will go away.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Which is still an allergy, but you know.
Well, there are others that actually, the other critics actually claim that it's just a scam.
Yeah.
You know, that there's no science really behind it. And so it's just a way to make money. $8,000 a pop.
Right.
To get really, is it a blood transfusion or is it really a plasma? I mean, you're really not receiving blood itself, right? You're receiving the plasma. Yeah. So but it isn't like these wealthy people that are doing this are actually consuming blood and gorging themselves on bags of it.
That's capitalism right there to a T.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, if you can make money, do it. You make money doing it. Hell, there's people out there that sit in front of microphones. Not us, granted, not us. I would like to say not us as of right now. Right. There are people sit in front of microphones and just make money talking all day long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not us.
Not us.
But if you would like to help, we do have a Patreon.
I love the way you're throwing these little things in here as we go along. This is great.
The Shit Show WCL at patreon.com.
There you go.
Yeah, you can donate if you'd like.
That's right. Send us coins, send us dollar bills. Hey, we're all happy. It's all money.
Oh gosh.
So,
sorry.
But you know, as we've been talking about this, definitely the ethics of this is really murky.
Yeah.
You know, receiving blood from young people when you have adrenochrome, when all of the conspiracy theories about, you know, the Clintons especially, and, you know, getting involved in adrenochrome harvesting from babies and, you know, sacrificing children on their altars of satanic sacrifice as they're gorging themselves on blood and passing out because they're just so full from the adrenochrome.
But again, like we talked about in our last episode and earlier in this episode, how you do it is what makes it okay.
Right. And there are always kernels of truth to the conspiracy theories. Again, we go back to this.
Yep. And
there's
if
always
you're
kernels
doing
of truth.
Child sacrifice and drinking blood, that's a bad thing. If you have somebody that's like, dude, fucking tap in, let's go.
Let's do it.
Have fun.
Let's do it.
I don't care. You're not hurting anyone. You have a willing participant. You're going to take a healthy amount out of their body and you're going to chug a lug, go right ahead.
And just like we had said, with adrenochrome, it's used in the medical community for blood clotting as well, which Hillary Clinton did have or maybe still does have a blood clotting issue.
Yes.
So kernels of truth again.
So
back to our our episode on QAnon. As well as now here. We have those kernels of truth that the wealthy, $8,000 a pop, you have to have some money in the bank to be able to afford this process, that are getting, quote unquote, not necessarily blood transfusions, but are receiving the plasma that has the enzymes in it that could slow down the aging process.
Can you blame the company? As long as they are getting this plasma and blood through legitimate means, can you blame the company for charging rich people $8,000 a pop?
Hell no. Hell no. If I have a rich person that has all the money in the world, hell, I think my price would be higher.
Right? Like,
I'd take full advantage of them.
For me,
if they're stupid enough to pay the money, I'm smart enough.
I've got a price for just about any task you've got out there.
Exactly. I'd be willing enough to charge anything if they're stupid enough to pay for it.
You want my blood? I'll give it to you for a price.
Sure.
Hell, my price isn't even that high for my blood.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're rich, it might go up a little bit more. But I've done plasma donations. Like it's fucking $70 a week for 2 donations. You know, like whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I might charge you, if you're rich and famous, I might charge you $1,000, but if you're going to drink it, enjoy.
Sure. Well, I mean, Ambrosia is really not the first, company to really offer this. I mean, it was back in the 17th century. There was talk about apothecaries making human blood marmalade for patients.
Marmalade?
Yeah.
Isn't that jelly?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. That was like jelly
there are accounts that apothecaries that were doing this during the 17th century. So Ambrosia doing this, that's nothing new. They were doing this back then. And in fact, like we were talking about, there were people that were consuming the blood of people that were either hung or executed.
Yeah.
Back at that time, they were filling up pots of buckets of blood because of whatever, ailment they had felt at the time, epilepsy, which was one of them. They felt that that's what it could cure. So accounts from there were accounts from European doctors that experimented with transfusions as well. And proposed linking the circulatory systems of two beings to extend life, but they wound up killing so many people due to the lack of knowledge about blood types.
Oh, okay.
So, mixing those blood types. So there were accounts of European doctors doing this, not just with mice. So,
right,
but actual human experimental subjects, fusing them together to see if it would extend their life. Now that is crazy. Now you talk about some crazy shit that is happening now.
Weird stuff back in the day.
Right. Yeah, but you talk about some of the crazy shit that is being. I mean, imagine if they were doing that now. How many conspiracy theories would be floating around now? I mean, we think that that our government or medical institutions or the wealthy are doing some crazy shit that they need to be called out on and be held against. They need to be held accountable for.
Yeah.
But back in the 17th century and 18th centuries, the doctors were doing so much more shit that was just crazy.
But if you think about it, if it wasn't for them doing this weird, crazy shit back then, we probably wouldn't know about blood types.
That's true.
We wouldn't know about a lot of this stuff that's going on. Like we look at it now and go, oh my God, that's kind of barbaric. Why would you do that? But in reality, it's, in 100 years, 200 years, 1,000 years, whatever it is down the road, they're going to look at the shit we do now and go, what the hell were they thinking?
Right.
Like, of course you can't mix goobly gob blood with gobbler gobbler blood because they don't mix. And when we're sitting here going, it's type A and type B, it's obvious. Well, like we can't do that. But then you have type A and type A, you can mix that. But then those people are going, yeah, but there's another breakdown that's even more specific. That's the goobly glah and the goobly goo blood. And you can't mix the goobly glah with the goobly glue blood.
Yeah.
Excuse me while I ramble here a second.
Do you want more Vikings blood?
But like, they're going to have something like that where we think we've got this broken down. We know the answer. And then they're going to come along and be like, no, there's actually another building block that we're missing. And that's why it doesn't work as well with some people and it works better with others.
Sure.
Just like when they did the blood, like they hooked two people up together and it worked for some and it killed others.
Yeah.
It's because, well, not all blood is the same.
Right.
And not everybody can handle certain blood.
Yeah, and I'm sure at the time when this was happening, they were probably scratching their heads thinking, okay, now why isn't this why are we killing off all these people? What's going on?
Like, why did Billy and Bobby over there work great? Like, they are awesome over there. But these 10 people just died and we don't know what the fuck.
Yeah, don't look over in the corner. Don't talk about the elephant in the room. Look over here at Billy and Bob. They're doing fantastic. They can run a marathon in like 1 minute flat.
Right? Like, they're doing awesome.
They're doing great.
But then we tried the same thing with these guys, and now we have fucking
we don't know.
A pile of corpses we're going to have to do something with.
Sure. So, but then in the 20th century, they started, I could see where this would be a good thing. Maybe they thought, okay, we're wasting too many human bodies here. Let's start stitching together the circulatory systems of rats and let's see what we got going on. So they started experimenting with rats during the 20th century. Less fun, but, more safe for human beings.
Yeah. They're just rats.
Right. Physicians started to note the anecdotes about young blood boosting older patients' energy and giving them a younger appearance. So in the 1950s to the 1970s, scientists continued to link the circulatory systems of mice, which we already talked about, parabiosis. And this is where they were starting to learn more and more about how blood works, but also left them with more observations about young blood's life extending potential than they knew what to do with. So they were seeing that, there was some credibility to the blood taken from a younger mice's life, mice's body. I don't know. Anyway, but younger blood had something to do with changing the enzyme levels within somebody's blood to make them maybe feel younger, seem younger. Don't know.
And I believe plural is mice, but if you're talking possessive, I think it would be mices.
Or Mises. I don't know. This reminds me back to Looney Tunes cartoons like Sylvester and Bugs Bunny. I think there was a cartoon character that would call like a bunch of mice Mises, mouses. I don't know. Anyway, then around the turn of the millennium, a professor who learned about parabiosis in Montana in the 1950s passed on his knowledge of the procedure to a grad student whose work created a new academic lineage probing young blood. New researchers established that its potential benefits lie in the fact that as we age, the levels of some of the 700 or so proteins in our blood plasma shift, causing rippling changes in all of our tissues and bodily functions. Yeah. So there is some medical credibility there. So hence all the conspiracy theories, about adrenochrome and about being and looking younger. Kernels of truth.
There you go.
Yeah.
And yes, the correct possessive phrase for mouse is mouses.
It is mouses, not mices.
But plural is mice or mices.
Okay. See? So Looney Tunes got it right.
Because mouses is like, if a mouse has a piece of cheese, it is the mouse's piece of cheese. But if
there's a bunch
of mice all have pieces of cheese, it is the mice's pieces of cheese.
Mices or mices, tomato.
Right, exactly.
So Looney Tunes got it right. Way to be Bugs Bunny. Awesome.
I'm terrible with that. If there is a question, I have to know the answer to stupid shit like that. Sorry.
So basically what they're saying is that old blood can theoretically cause aging effects in a younger body, just as young blood proteins can rejuvenate, but not reverse aging in older people. So there you go. Maybe in older people, at least in mice, they found this to be the case. So
maybe there wasn't an age difference. That's why the rich people do babies.
Maybe the younger, the more vital the blood is, the more energy that it stores.
To reverse the age
there is there is that theory that you have to harvest adrenochrome as soon as that child is sacrificed. Soon. You can't wait. The longer you wait, the less potent that adrenochrome will be.
Yeah.
But as soon as but if you kill that child and then harvest the blood right away and then consume it, you're getting more of the energy and more of the essence of that younger blood.
Maybe. Okay, conspiracy theory, and I hate to get a little bit on the political side, but maybe this is why some places are pushing for post-birth abortions.
This explains it all.
Because then they have the freshest baby
you might be right.
With the freshest blood.
Fuck, you might be right. You're onto something, Derek. Damn it.
It's like, this baby has just been born and bleed it. Here's the adrenochrome. Shoot up, Hillary.
Oh my God. We got people running to the hills on this one. Yeah. That might be it.
Gosh.
It might be it. You're right. But who knows what the facts really are? Does younger blood actually create more of an anti-aging effect in people? Don't know. They kind of seen it in mice, but to some critics, it's not really conclusive. It's still theory.
Yeah.
Maybe there hasn't been enough tests done on it. But who knows? Whatever. There is like the American way is, there is a company out there that is going to bleed the rich of all their money.
And I don't blame them.
Yep.
If you can make money, then
yeah.
If you can find somebody dumb enough to buy your product, then you can find somebody dumb enough to buy your product.
Right.
I mean, whatever.
Right. But it kind of goes back to the mythology of vampires, though.
Yeah.
I mean, where the mythology of vampires is that they live forever.
Yeah.
They, they don't age. If they don't consume blood, then they age. Particularly, I mean, when it came to Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah.
There was a part in the book where he does show his true self, and he's very old.
Yeah.
But if he consumes the blood when he needs to, he can show himself as very young.
Yeah.
And so, there is some sort of theoretical science, that vampirism is based upon.
So what I'm getting from what you're saying is Hillary Clinton is a vampire.
She is.
Okay.
She is. She is a vampire.
Knew it. Yep. I knew it.
So yeah, I mean, they are essentially vampires.
Yeah.
There we go. They're part of the clan. They're part of the clan. They're following the Setka order.
Right.
Who knows? Who knows? You never know.
Dude,
there's some crazy shit out there.
That would be interesting to find out if people like Hillary Clinton, Bill Gates, all those those people come to find out they actually follow the order of a Setka.
Yeah. Well, a Setka isn't really the only order out there. There are like a couple of other orders that were prior to a Setka. So, but who knows? They might be following something. They might be following some sort of order. Who knows? Let's say they are. Let's do it. Let's say, yeah, they are.
Yep. We're starting because I find this theory now.
Yeah, I mean, come on, let's make it fun. Let's make it all fun and games. Let's do it. Yeah, sure. So, but as we know, in the Middle Ages, variations on early vampire mythology proliferated across Europe, and this is where vampirism and vampires really. They kind of say that Europe was the origin of the vampire.
This is where it really took hold.
Yeah. And so, and they were being blamed for various diseases that spread throughout Europe, from the plague to tuberculosis and everything like that. Vampire slaying ritual. I mean, even in the modern age, they still hold really true to the Middle Age belief of vampires and vampirism, because it was in 2003 that a vampire slaying ritual in a Romanian village was performed on a deceased laborer, Petra Toma, and that they decided that he had become a strigoi. I think that's how you pronounce it. Strigoi, Strigoi, a vampire, kind of like what Nosferatu was considered, a Strigoi. I think that's how it is pronounced. So the 6 men had exhumed the body, staked it, sprinkled it with garlic, and opened Toma's ribcage with a pitchfork. They took out his heart, burned it, and drank the ashes in a glass of water. That was considered kind of like a Middle Age ritual that was done if somebody was considered to be a vampire and maybe their body was exhumed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So even in 2003, there were rituals that were still performed, and still that fear of vampirism was still in existence. So it was also in Bulgaria. A 700-year-old skeleton discovered in 2012 points to the region's own vampire slaying custom. The skeleton was found to be pinned down with a rock to keep it from rising. It had been stabbed through the chest with an iron rod, and its teeth had been removed, basically removing the teeth because they were feared that it was a vampire and was going to bite somebody. So. But the most famous instance is that of Mercy Lena Brown, a 19-year-old woman in Exeter, Rhode Island, here in the United States, of all places. In 1892, Brown was exhumed alongside her mother and sister. Alarmed that his son appeared to be ill with the same mysterious illness that this farmer's wife and daughters died from as well. So that's why he had their bodies exhumed. Mercy's father, George Brown, reluctantly agreed with others in the community, concerned that a malevolent force might be preying upon his farm. So he consented to the examination of the remains of Mercy and their sisters and mother. So they found that when they exhumed Mercy's body, it laid it on its side. It was far less decomposed with hair and nail growth. But only 8 weeks had passed prior to her burial. So basically, what the examiner was saying to Mercy's father was that, okay, this is normal. This happens, So when a body is, buried, that it isn't that the hair or the nails grow to indicate that possibly they might still be alive, but it's because the skin recedes.
Yeah.
It's decomposing. Right. So the townspeople weren't swayed by this medical, expertise. Because so many people had died from what was known as tuberculosis at the time. So they removed and burned her heart on a rock pyre. The ashes were mixed up into a potion as an elixir for the sick, which was a common New England vampire practice. Other practices included rearranging bones and a beheading, as well as flipping the corpse upside down in its coffin. So even here in the United States, in New England, back in the 1800s, they did perform that practice on Mercy as well. Even though with the medical advice is saying, hey, this is normal, she is not a vampire, she still is not alive, they still perform this ritual. Yeah.
I want to know what the flipping of the body upside down does.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Would it be harder to get out of the grave? Would that be it?
Are they just so confused and disoriented that it's like, oh no, my head is where my feet should be, and my feet are where my head should be. I can't get out.
Right.
Open it. It opens the same way, people. Like it just opens.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. But, still those same customs that were carried out in the 17th century still applied towards the 18th century as well. I don't know. I mean, so I can understand, how, the mythology of vampires are played out in movies and everything like that, and how all of this becomes convoluted.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it's a cool idea. It's fun.
Sure.
Entertaining.
Especially if you don't have the medical prowess of, say, a so-called medical expert that does, and you're just, say, a townsperson that doesn't know really anything medical about any sort of conditions or anything like that might be plaguing somebody, to look like a vampire, or the burial aspect and what happens after burial to the body. If you don't know these things and you're still living by these superstitions, you're still going to be fearful, and you're going to think, oh, no way. No matter what, vampires do exist. It's the fear, that innate fear.
Well, there was one thing I came across, I think it was in the 1600s-ish, I believe. There was one body that it got exhumed, and they claim that they saw where like skin had like come off their feet.
Yeah.
But there was new skin growth.
Really?
Yeah.
They claim, though.
They claim. They claim.
Really? Okay. Or was it just mass hysteria?
Well, it was supposedly a like a doctor that exhumed the body and looked at it and was like, "Ooh, there's new skin growth."
Oh, so
but we're talking about a doctor in the 1600s who also was probably the town barber and the butcher and the candlestick maker all in one.
That's true. That's true.
So, I mean,
Right.
it could have been like some of the dead skin flaked off, and we have layers. Skin comes in layers. Maybe like an outer layer had dried and come off and decomposed, and there was a new fresh layer. Well,
That was
newer,
well,
like
right.
still pink and moist layer of skin underneath. Where they
Sure.
went, oh my goodness, but in reality, it was just
Yeah. Yeah. It was the dermis and
yeah,
the epidermis
yeah,
could have been
yeah,
of the skin layer. So, which probably was.
right.
That's probably what it
Yeah.
was. So, unless he knows something that we don't, back in
Right.
the 16th century.
I mean, back then, who knows? Maybe it was a freaking massive callus just fell off the person's foot.
Could have
They
been.
went, "Hey, fresh skin.
Yeah.
Guess what's underneath a callus, motherfucker?"
Yeah. Right. Right. So, and like we were saying, like, with all of these experiments that were done through the mid-century to find out what blood combinations work good together, we wouldn't have these insights into medical science like we do now.
Yep.
We would still be stuck back in the Middle Ages if it wasn't for these doctors that were willing to go out on a limb
and do some
and
of this weird
do
shit.
some of this weird stuff to go against, and to be willing to and maybe ethically and morally put aside their proclivications towards any sort of morals or ethics to just say, okay, we're doing this for science, or I'm doing this for my ego. Either way, to get notoriety.
Yeah.
But still contribute to science in a very
exactly,
I guess, dark positive way.
right? Like,
right?
And I feel like
right?
Because I do feel there's a difference here, because you look at kind of some weird dark stuff that's happened in science over like in medieval times, and then you look at like what the Nazis and the Japanese did with some of the dark shit that they did in quote unquote for science. I think there's a difference, because what they were doing was like medieval times doctors really had no clue. They didn't have a freaking clue of what would happen, and they did it so they could find out what would happen.
Mm-hmm.
Where a lot of these other, evil scientists that you think of, what they would do was they had a good idea of what would happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe they were looking for what would happen after, like what they knew would happen, but they knew what they were doing was fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sticking an arm in freaking what is that stuff? The freezing.
Dry ice?
Not dry ice. The it was the gas. Can also be a liquid.
Oh my god.
Nitrogen?
Yeah.
Liquid nitrogen.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what dry ice is made out of.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, right.
But like they would stick limbs in liquid nitrogen and then like see what happened.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
you know what's going to happen.
Freeze. Like, good job, genius.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were just covering it up with, okay, this is science, but it basically just means a torture.
Yeah, right.
And whatever hatred that they wanted to express.
And like, there might be like okay, what happens if I do this and then I shatter their arm? What is their emotional and physical response to this? Well, come on.
Right,
like,
right.
No shit.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, but like what you're saying,
what good does this actually do other than for torture means?
Right. But back in mid-century, we had no idea.
Yeah, and they were honestly looking to make things at least not necessarily all of them, but I feel like there was a good amount of them that were looking to try and make things better.
Right.
Not just torturous.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, as Scientific American notes, cases of rare blood disorder called porphyria in Eastern Europe may be the root of certain physical characteristics attributed to vampires.
Yes.
So there are people that actually suffer from this disease.
Yeah.
That, when you look at the mythologies of vampires and what vampires, a lot of people thought that they looked like. Well, this disease could attribute to the fact of why people were so fearful of vampirism and vampires, and attributed to what we have now as the classical look and actions of a vampire. Porphyria symptoms include sensitivity to light, resulting in blistered skin or burns when exposed, hallucinations, and receded gums that give the impression of elongated teeth.
Yes.
So this actually exists.
Yes. Well, and I think you had mentioned pre-episode that some people would like lose body parts like noses.
Sure, because of the sensitivity to light. Yes.
Which would really draw out especially like what we were talking about, the feral vampire look, like not the pretty sexy vampire, but like the feral vampire look.
Right.
Most of them had like a chopped nose, like, I mean, most people would consider it more bat-like, whereas that kind of stuck up, kind of
like Nosferatu.
Yeah,
kind of like what his characteristics look like.
Yep.
Yeah.
But this would make perfect sense of if they lost their nose like that. That's kind of the look it would give them, of the big nostrils that were more flared,
Right.
And pale skin because you can't go out in the sunlight, and when you do, essentially catch fire. You blister and you burn like, a sunburn.
Yeah.
But it's not a hard stretch to think, that if you leave them out there long enough, what's going to happen? Like, are they going to just go and combust?
Sure.
It's an easy way to draw lines for that theory.
Yeah. And particularly in mid-century Europe, where a lot of these vampire traditions began.
Yeah.
Apart from possibly Egypt, but
right.
That's neither here. I mean, that's neither here nor there, because it's kind of wishy-washy. It's a gray area. But we have Europe, and we have what we think, could be attributed to the mistaken people as being quote unquote real vampires that are going to come out and ravish the neighborhood and kill everybody by biting their necks and sucking the blood out of them, and like we had talked about, what happens to a body after it is buried? And a lot of people weren't aware of what, happens to a body when it's buried. Well, as we had talked about, why it looked like the hair had grown and nails had grown is because the skin shrinks. The internal organs break down as well. Any dark purge fluid can leak out of the nose and mouth. And why many people back in the day believe that vampires drink blood. Because when a body suspected of vampirism was dug up, the appearance of this purged fluid could be mistaken for blood, given the impression the deceased had consumed, something.
Yeah.
When they were actually expelling it. The body was purging itself of it instead of consuming it.
It was leaking.
So that's where probably a lot of these mythologies started circulating, and people believe that, okay, they were coming back to life. They were coming out of their coffins, and then they were vampires drinking the blood because it was showing it on their lips.
Yeah.
Through their orifices. But that's not the case medically.
It's crazy.
Very interesting, huh? But nonetheless, vampirism does really exist.
Yes.
To some people. They really believe it.
To an extent, yes.
They do. To an extent, they believe it. And there you go. Oh, I totally missed.
That was
terrible. Man, that was so bad. That was so bad.
Was awful.
God. Well, there's always next time. There's always next time.
I'm surprised that's the first one you threw. Normally you throw like your first like 2 or 3 at the
start. No, that's it. Just got one, and I totally missed the mark.
Totally failed.
So there we go.
Yeah.
So vampirism is real to some people. They believe it is real. Doctors, they feel that some people have claimed that their physicians don't know why their condition exists, but they just feel that they need to drink blood and consume it.
Yeah.
And they consume it in, as far as we know, and as far as what they say, in an ethically and moral way.
Yeah. It exists to Not the extent of the lore. Like what we think of when you, like you said, you go out and you ask people if vampires exist, they're going to say no.
Right.
Because they're going to think of the Nosferatu vampire, the Dracula vampire, which I'm honestly surprised we didn't delve more into Dracula. But I think that's more because it is the fictional character.
Right.
Like you've got, Vlad the Impaler, which was one of the inspirations for, and he was a dark, really evil person. But besides that, like he wasn't necessarily considered a vampire.
No, I mean, he wasn't consuming the blood as far as we know.
Exactly.
I mean, he was just basically staking his victims, and that's about it.
Like he just did some evil shit, and
sure.
But that's what they think of when you think of a vampire, where this is more of a, I don't want to say purely psychological, but it's more of a, hey, yeah, I think I need to feed on blood. They're, for the most part, a lot of them are fairly normal people, quote unquote normal. I mean, yeah, they drink blood, which is a bit abnormal, but like we said, they're your doctors and nurses and lawyers and everyday people that you might encounter on the street.
Right.
They're not your dark, reclusive, freaking pale skin sleeping in a coffin.
Mm-hmm. Most of them are. There are probably some of them that are doing that.
Exactly. I was going to say,
I would be one of them.
You're always going to have your cult vampires.
Yeah.
You have your normal quote unquote vampires, which are your normal-ish people that feel like they need to feed for whatever reason, whether it's a psychological reason or a physical, like I'm weak, I'm hungry, I'm whatever.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have your cult vampires, which are the ones that are going to go out and they're going to get their fangs surgically implanted or their teeth filed. They're going to sleep in a coffin for the shits and giggles of it. It's going to be more of maybe a sexual fetish for them than a physical need.
Yeah.
It's going to start to stretch to the TV version of a vampire.
Yeah. Yeah, but then also you have the spiritual aspect of it, the metaphysical aspect of it that is found in Aset Ka and many other organizations alike.
Yeah.
That not all vampires or sanguines follow.
Yep.
But some do.
Yep.
To kind of give more credence to who they are.
Yeah. But aren't necessarily evil.
No.
Most vampires are viewed as, because movies have really skewed things, because even Underworld, vampires aren't good guys.
Yeah,
they're not really the good guys in the movie. They're just not as bad as, or like
they're not as bad as the werewolves.
They're trying. Those werewolves. They try to
That's a totally different podcast.
As not as bad as the werewolves, at least originally.
Right.
And then you find out that the vampires fucked over the werewolves, and that vampires are actually the bad guys.
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah. Yeah. But really, anytime you get into it in mythical, like the mythical portion of it, it's still feeding the off of the blood of humans. It's still the blade aspect. It's still the Nosferatu waking up in the middle of the night and looking, and there's a vampire looming over your bed. That's still really the reality of the mythical vampire.
Right.
Where the modern day vampire is somebody who's going to go out. They're going to most likely, other than the few far between, like psycho serial killer style mindset of somebody that might be a quote unquote vampires, most of them are going to go out and find a willing donor, find a legit means of getting their blood that they're going to drink, get it tested, have everything done, and everything's going to be done consensually. Yeah.
So there you go. There you go, everybody out there. Vampires really do exist, and they do have a large community. And so, if you're ever willing to be a willing donor, there might be a chance that you could also make some money off of this as well. I'm just saying.
Hell, if you are a vampire and you're looking for a willing donor,
I have some veins you can tap here.
Give me a call. I have a price. I have a price.
Yes. Yeah. So well, I think this concludes our subject on vampirism.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, so you know what time it is.
All right. Well, as I have stated before, there are ways to get a hold of us. If you like to leave comments and stuff like that, if on YouTube, hey, we're on YouTube, so I need to start saying the usual YouTube thing, like and subscribe.
Yeah. And
leave a comment because engagement helps.
Right. And we're just not only on YouTube, we're still, uploading this to our traditional podcast form as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say we are still streaming on like Podbean and Apple Podcasts,
Yep.
Spotify, all that kind of stuff. We're out there on our normal podcast,
and we're going through the growth pains of learning and navigating this whole YouTube thing, going through maybe different software applications as well to try to maybe move away from what we've been using to something new. So please bear with us, bear with us through these changes, because you're going to see warts and all with us. You're going to see everything. We try not to edit anything. We try to make it not look glossy in anything. And as of right now, we don't have all the fancy graphics that a lot of YouTube channels have, as you can see, because basically we don't know what we're doing yet, really, and know how to do it. But we're learning.
Neither of us are audiovisual people. We're just kind of jumping into
and
this.
We don't know a lot of audiovisual people either. So, so just bear with us. We're learning.
We're going to be trying out some new stuff here in the near future, new cameras, potentially, new software, all that kind of stuff. So
and you're going to get to see it all, warts and all. Really, you will.
If something seems a little bit rough, just bear with us. It'll get better.
Yes.
It'll get better.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Derek.
Not a problem. But as I also said, you can get a hold of us on our website, theshitshowwcl.com. You can find us on Instagram, which we have links on our website too, at theshitshowwcl. We also have links on our website to our Facebook page, which is The Shit Show, shit without an I. You can find Ron on Instagram at ron.clet. You can find me at Derek the Barbaric Drenth. Let's see here. You can also email us if you have any comments that you don't want to leave on our YouTube page or our YouTube or our podcasts like Podbean or Apple Podcasts, anything like that. If you don't want to leave comments on there, you can email us. It's a little more personal at theshitshowwcl@gmail.com.
Yeah. Is that it?
We do have a Patreon.
Oh, there we go.
If you want to give us some money.
Yeah. Right.
That's the Shit Show WCL.
Besides blood harvesting.
Right. Or if you would like our blood, like I said, we have maybe that's what we can
put vials of our blood on a Patreon. To any vampires out there that want to consume some blood, we might put our blood on Patreon for a price.
There you go.
So I'm A negative, just to let you know.
I don't know what the fuck I am.
So that concludes our episode. I think we're bringing it home. So this has been Ron Klett.
This has been Derek the Barbaric Drenth.
And you've just had a front row seat
to the Shit Show.
There it is.